In this last section of Chapter 7, we did want to mention dihybrid crosses. Now, we just talked about monohybrid crosses that look at one trait at a time, and they have 4 boxes. However, you can also look at dihybrid crosses. Dihybrid crosses actually looks at 2 different traits at a time. And so when you do a dihybrid cross, you actually end up with 16 possible outcomes. So for example, you could look for plants at yellow versus green seeds and round versus wrinkled at the same time. Now, the only dihybrid crosses that you'll actually see here are where both parents are heterozygous for both traits. And so this would be one parent, this would be the other parent. And so you, again, take the parents and you put one on the left side, one on top, and as you cross them, these would be all of your possible outcomes. Now, for what you have to know about dihybrid crosses, you're not going to have to work any of these. You just got to be able to read these. So what if I gave you this dihybrid cross between different types of plants, yellow versus green, round versus wrinkled, and I simply asked that for this dihybrid cross, how many possible outcomes or possible offspring will have both round and yellow seeds? Well, what I would look for is I'd look for counting how many have both capital R's and capital Y's. And so when you count them, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So how many are both round and yellow? You would say 9. What if on the test I gave you this dihybrid cross and I said, well, how many of the possible offspring will be both round and green? Well, you would count the ones that have capital R's and little y's. So this is 1, 2, 3. So you'd say 3 out of 16. What if I asked how many are both wrinkled and yellow, where you're looking for little r's and capital Y's? There's 1, 2, 3. Or if I asked how many are wrinkled and green, little r's and little y's, you would say just 1. So if we come back to the questions that we asked at the very beginning of Chapter 7, remember when we were talking about the sperm bank, and we talked about the fact that some sperm are more pricey because they come from donors that have advanced degrees. So we know that genes can have a strong influence over things like eye color, hair color, height. We also know that genes have a strong influence on the risk of genetic diseases, on how you inherit them, like cystic fibrosis or Huntington's disease. We even know that genes have an influence even over the structure of your brain. But the question is, what really determines who we are? Is it our genetics and nature, or is it nurture and the environment we grew up on? Take skin color, for example. Skin color is partly determined by our genes, so the amount of melanin, melanocytes and melanin that's produced in our body, that is determined by our genes, but it can also be influenced by our environment because the more sun exposure you have, the more melanin you're going to produce and the darker your skin becomes. So skin color is a great example of the fact that both nature and nurture play a role in developing skin color. So then sperm from high IQ donors may increase the odds of having an offspring with a high IQ because we know that the father or the sperm cells are going to send their genetics onto that offspring, and so there is a chance that it could increase the odds. But only if the parents provide them with a stimulating, healthy, and challenging environment. If you take a child that's born from a sperm donor that had a high IQ, but you don't introduce that child to education, you don't teach them how to read, you don't teach them how to do math and English and things like that, then it doesn't matter how high the IQ, you're not going to stimulate it, and so the odds that they would have a high IQ and be able to get an advanced degree when they go to college will probably be slim. So we know that both nature and nurture play a role in your IQ, play a role in how successful you would be at college or at your future career.